I was in D.C. recently, and it was right after the ice storm on the East Coast, and everything was still frozen. Sort of, you could walk in a single file down the sidewalk, but that was about it. But I didn't realize that the reflecting pool freezes solid because it's only 18 inches deep, and they play hockey on it and ice skate on it. And I was on my way past, and I was like, where are all these people going with their hockey sticks? And I loved it. They were out there just pick up games of hockey on the reflecting pool. That was really cool.
Just growing up in New Hampshire, we used to go to ice parties where it'd be the Fifields. I grew up in really rural New Hampshire. 1,000 people lived in my town. I'm not even joking. And we all knew each other, and half the town had the same name. But they would go and we'd have ice skating parties, and then they would cut the ice and they would take blocks of ice out, and you would bring ice home to keep outside so you could keep things cool. And that's so back in the 1920s. But I was talking to my parents about it, and they're like, yeah, they did it because it was about the past. And some of the Fifes still used it. They kept some of their meat cold outside in the ground.
Oh my gosh.
But he's like, my parents are like, no. He's like, we would take the bag of ice home and just let it melt.
It's for nostalgia.
Yeah, it was for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Was it
very
chipped
cool.
ice, or did you get a block?
Well, they would get a big block, 6 feet by maybe 3 feet by 2 feet, and then they would
ice sculptures.
I know
Very
they
cool.
do that a lot up there. Those are the things.
Well, I grew up in the South, so I don't.
See,
This is all new information to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
Welcome back to Behind the Lines, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes at Central Electric, and we talk about the people, the programs, the things that power a cooperative. I'm your host, Conni Tucker. I'm the communications specialist here at Central Electric. And today's episode is one I'm really excited about because we're talking about a program that is really representative of cooperation in action, which is our Operation Roundup program. And it's one of the ways that our members help support local communities by rounding up their electric bill to the next whole dollar, and those extra cents add up to something pretty incredible. And today we're going to talk about how that happens and who it impacts. And joining me today as my co-host is Meg Moss, our Director of Marketing and Member Engagement. And Meg oversees our Operation Roundup program here at Central and works closely with the organizations that receive the grants. And we're also joined by our two guests who are going to speak firsthand about the impact of Operation Roundup. So Rebecca Hankins is here from Chatham Outreach Alliance, or better known as CORA, Food Pantry. And then Kelly Hazen Klug joins us from Central Carolina Community College Foundation. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
So Meg, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning. So can you give us a little bit of history about Operation Roundup and how did it come to Central Electric?
Sure. So Operation Roundup started in South Carolina. There was a co-op in South Carolina that was looking for different ways to show their concern for community, which is one of the cooperative principles. And they looked at their community, what their needs are, and said, how can we kind of raise money for these community needs? And so they developed the Operation Roundup program. That was in 1989, so a long time ago. And then by the mid-1990s, it had kind of spread into other electric cooperatives and really is probably the most well-known cooperative program, charitable program that there is. And then in 2013, our board of directors here at Central Electric said, we can do this. We can do this here at Central. And, thanks to our members, we had a strong rollout of communication to our members about Operation Roundup. It was in our Carolina Country magazine. We put it in our bill inserts. We sent out press releases. So our members really knew what we were doing and got behind the program. And it's really designed to pull small voluntary bill roundups into large community impact. And one of the things when I deliver Operation Roundup grant checks is we like to say that small change changes lives.
Right. And so at a high level, how does, and you can talk a little bit about who makes the decisions as to who gets the grants, but how does the Central Electric Member Care Trust decide where those funds go? How do they make those decisions?
Sure. So there's a 5-member board of directors, and there are directors from Lee, Chatham, Harnett, and Moore counties. And that board of directors looks at the needs of the community. They kind of evaluate the applications based on the number of people that are going to be served, the need in the community, and they also look at how the organization measures the effectiveness of what the grant is going to be. And then kind of the main focus areas that the board looks at are essential needs like food, shelter, education, safety, and housing. And so those are kind of the key areas that they look at. So I want to actually turn to our guests a little bit here. And Rebecca, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about CORA, who you serve, and the role your organization plays in the community?
Sure. CORA, which stands for Chatham Outreach Alliance, was started in 1989. It started as a firewood ministry by 5 local churches. And it was quickly determined that food was more important than firewood. Hunger continues to be a persistent problem across this country. So our mission, and it's always been the same since they made that pivot, is to provide food to community members facing food insecurity. And that has been our mission for over 35 years. We've tweaked it a little bit. So a new word that's in there is nutrition. So we focus on healthy and nutritious food and also culturally relevant food. We have a very diverse population in Chatham County. And we just want to make sure everybody receives the food that they need. So we have various programs. Our flagship program are our choice pantries. So our pantries are set up like a grocery store, and people come in and choose the foods that they want. It's very much rooted in dignity and just respecting people's time and where they are there in their lives, and for us just to be there to help them. And through Operation Roundup, you've supported not only our food pantries, but we have programs for children, we have programs for seniors, we have programs for home delivery. So the support from Operation Roundup has been really instrumental in our growth, and we've grown quite a bit over the past 10 years.
That's great. And so I do have a follow-up question for you, and you spoke to this a little bit, but what kinds of needs are you seeing often right now among the families that you serve?
I think it's interesting is if we go back to 2020 when the pandemic happened and we started really seeing the huge spike in the need for food assistance across the country. We all thought in that moment, wow, like this is wonderful. We're able to help these people and these needs are going to go down. I think it was in 2022, we had like 60,000 requests for assistance for the year. And this year we're looking at about 120,000 requests for assistance. So it is a necessity, food. So I think our families, they've always had hunger or food insecurity as a issue, but I think what we're experiencing now is the demographics a little different. I think it used to be we'd have a lot of seniors who are on fixed incomes who came to CORA. Now you have families who the parents are working multiple jobs. We've done a lot of work with the Hispanic population in Chatham County and building trust with them, so we see a larger Hispanic population. So I don't want to say that hunger discriminates. I mean, I think that we have families from all walks of life. I think one of the most interesting stories, there's a woman who volunteered with us, and she worked in Research Triangle Park in Durham and had a very high-paying job, had an accident, and then she found herself needing assistance, and she was able to come to CORA. And we are a very low-barrier access organization. We do not ask you to provide us your budget, your pay stubs. We just want to know that you need assistance and we're going to help you. So I think the biggest change over the years has been just the amount of people needing assistance. And with food being a basic need, it's a easier one than helping someone pay for their mortgage. Sometimes, you know, when those things can get complicated. So we're really here to provide free food, and so then they can have their resources to cover some of the other necessities that are a little more difficult to cover.
And I think that's so true, what you mentioned about, you know, the woman from RTP and had an accident, and you just never know what's going on in someone's life and why they may need assistance. And with food being kind of your first necessity.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate that CORA is there to help the people that are in need in our community.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And I think hunger is somewhat invisible. I think one of the more shocking things I've learned in my role at CORA is how many people don't understand that poverty exists in Chatham County. And we don't just serve Chatham County. I want to be honest with the audiences that we serve Lee County, we serve Randolph County, we serve Orange County. So it comes from all over the area. And hunger is invisible. And I think the more we bring attention to the types of people and the situations that bring people to CORA, like needing new tires on their car, most people come to CORA 5 to 6 times a year. We are there in an emergency situation. We do have the regulars, like a lot of our older adults who are on fixed incomes, but we're all many of us are one emergency, one car accident, one illness away from needing assistance.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Kelly, I'm going to turn to you for just a minute. For those of our listeners who may not be familiar, can you explain the mission of the CCCC Foundation and how it supports students?
Sure. So the CCC Foundation, CCCC, that's a lot of C's, Foundation was founded in 1988 to support the academic mission of the college. It is a separate entity from the college. It has its own board of directors and has its own finances, but it's obviously related. And it helps strengthen our relationship with the community. It helps us identify other areas of support. And in layman's terms, it really helps us fund the initiatives and programs that our state budget doesn't provide for. So we are a state-funded organization, as the college is, but the foundation helps us pay for all of those things that don't come from the state budget. And in addition to things like student scholarships, it also helps if, let's say, a local industry wants to donate a piece of equipment for workforce training, the foundation would help navigate that and manage that relationship. It might be donating to the cougar market. We talk a lot about food insecurity, and obviously at the community college we see that as well. And so Operation Roundup has helped us as well in stocking what we call our cougar markets, and all of that is managed through the CCCC Foundation as the charitable arm of the college.
So why are emergency and enrichment funds so critical to student success at the community college level?
Sure. So financial issues are the number one barrier that we hear from our students. And while financial aid and scholarships can pay for things like tuition and books and fees and exam fees and things like that, many of our students struggle with just the day-to-day expenses of life, whether that's paying for groceries or putting gas in the car. And while many of our students really are successful at managing taking classes and working part-time and managing family obligations, we found, very similar to what you indicated, that an unexpected financial challenge can occur, and that can really become insurmountable for them to finish, in our case, going to school. So, if their car breaks down and they can't make it to classes, or they have a medical emergency and suddenly they have to decide between paying the medical bills or getting food for themselves or their family, all of this can make it really difficult for them. The good news is that what we found is a very small amount of money can often help them jump over that hurdle and continue their education. And so this small amount of financial support can really make the difference between them dropping out of school or continuing on and getting their degree.
So both of your organizations have received multiple Operation Roundup grants throughout the years that we've been doing these. Rebecca, I'll let you start. Can you share some of the projects that maybe the Operation Roundup funds have helped support over the years?
Yeah. One of our programs that we have is called SNAC. It's a summer feeding program for children for when they're not in school. So many of the students in Chatham County, I think it's about 40%, receive free or reduced lunch.
Right.
And so SNAC is a program that for 10 weeks over the summer, we have about 15 distribution sites, and families can go to these different sites and get free groceries for the summer. And Operation Roundup Roundup has supported that program. And the one thing I have to say about working with Meg and with Operation Roundup is that they're very adaptable to, I know, CORA's needs. And SNAP is a very important program. A lot of people love it. It's feeding children. It's kind of the easy sell. And another example of how they support us is we expanded into Siler City just this year. We opened another Choice Pantry in Siler City, and being able to go to Meg and saying, I know you've supported SNAC in the past, but this is a new need that we have, and just being open to seeing how funds can be used for different programs, because funding priorities shift. Like I said, we had a major donor who really loves SNAC, and we were like, okay, well, we feel comfortable in that space. How can we expand into Siler City with y'all's help? And so I think just over the years, they've just helped us feed more families in a dignified manner. And I can't emphasize enough how wonderful it is to have funding partners that are receptive, open, and just really easy to work with.
And do you think that some of that is due to the fact that the support really comes from the local members, like the members of our electric utility are the ones, it's all local?
Yeah,
I guess.
I do think people, I think this shows my age a little bit, but think global, act local. I think that people really want to help one another. And I think that's one thing I take from CORA every single day is the kindness of people. People are very kind. The community cares about each other. And it's an easy way for members to give back to the community and have a huge impact. I mean,
Right.
we provide, I think this year we're on track to provide 2 million meals to our community. And that's huge, but we don't get there on our own. It takes a lot of small amounts of change that can, create an impact like that.
And the Community College Foundation has also received kind of multiple grants throughout the years. You mentioned the Cougar Market,
Right.
but there have been other projects that the funds have gone for.
Sure. Our Academic and Cultural Enrichment Series is one. This was a few years ago. That is a program that gives our students the opportunity to engage with the arts. For many of them, they never have had that chance, whether it's because of geography, there's nothing nearby, or they don't have transportation. And so we call it ACES, brings those cultural performances to the college. So they might get to see a concert. They might get to go to the Temple Theater and see a show. They might hear a lecture, but just things that they wouldn't otherwise get to experience. And a lot of our students have said, oh, this is the first time I've ever gone to a theater. And they express that it's both eye-opening and also in some cases life-changing for them. So that's a program that we're really proud of. Another one that Operation Roundup has helped with is our James French Dreamkeeper program. And this is one of our greatest successes and a program that we're really proud of. It started in 2016, kind of in the wake of the hurricanes that were going on there, recognizing that a lot of people had needs, especially whether it's food or they had flooding, things like that. And students who need emergency funds can apply up to once a year for $400 for any short-term financial need that they might have. Again, very low barrier type situation. We have a commitment to turning those around within like 2 business days. So if they're about to be evicted or something like that, we can get that money in the hands of whoever needs it. Over the years, the program has served over 800 students and awarded almost $300,000 in just these small amounts of money that really can change a student's life. We found that the persistence rates for these students are at or above the general rates for our college population. So really, those small amounts of money can make a huge difference in keeping a student in school and helping them pursue their dreams.
And I don't think that we think about that sometimes. I think when you think about what a small amount it takes to help somebody bridge that gap, and then you may never have to see that. I mean, that student may never need help again, or it may be something that they have to encounter, but I think that it makes it very doable and reachable for when you think about what this money can accomplish as a grant. It goes a long way, I guess.
Yeah, and that amount, that $400 amount, was really based on what we saw students asking for. because we would give them like, what do you actually need? And students were asking, I think the average was originally like $345. So students aren't coming in and saying, I need $2,000 and I want to pay for all these things. They're literally just asking for these small amounts of money. And so that's how that figure really was established, that was based on what they were needing.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Kelly, it's kind of the Dreamkeeper Fund is getting the student to that last mile to get them to be able to get to graduation.
It started as a completion grant program, really, and it's kind of merged. We had an emergency fund and we had this Dreamkeeper program, which was a completion grant, and the two have kind of merged. But yes, the idea is that they're typically more than halfway through their program, and we're really just trying to get them to that credential so they can go out and pursue their dreams, hence the name for Dreamkeeper.
Right.
So, Kelly, what would you want Central Electric members to know about the impact of their spare change?
Well, if I could share a story, and I did ask for some ideas on this, but we had a student who was a devoted single mom. She had twins, and she refused to give up even when things were going really difficult for her. She had lost her job and had made the decision, well, I'm going to go back to school to try and improve the life for my family and for my children. And she was juggling classes, and she was working at like McDonald's to kind of pay the bills. And she was on the verge of losing her home. She was going to be evicted. And so she came and asked for Dreamkeeper funding, and the foundation was able to support her and get her into a stable living situation, which allowed her to continue school and keep working and keep believing in a brighter future. So I think as people are donating these small amounts of money, that money really builds up, and it doesn't take a lot to change somebody's life.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that story. Rebecca, so from your perspective, what do programs like Operation Roundup, why do they matter so much to a nonprofit?
Obviously, like I've mentioned, it's not just the funds, it's the relationships that you build and being able to share your story. I think Operation Roundup is so important to CORA because it takes a lot of people to have a big impact often. And it's more than just the meals, because I can sit here and give, we had 120,000 requests for assistance and gave out 2 million meals, but it's really more about the flexibility that these funds give us. Years ago, it would have been just putting food on the shelves. Now it's having diverse foods on the shelf. And I'll share a story. It was a really moving moment. I had a young mother with their children come through for the first time to CORA, and you could just tell she was having a bad day. And we started talking, and she was just so happy that we had Campbell's soup because she wanted to make a recipe of her grandmother's. And she couldn't believe we had egg noodles because she thought when she saw the Campbell's soup, she thought she was going to have to use rice or something to make this casserole, but we had the egg noodles. And it's just those little things that just demonstrate how food is so important, not only to our health, but to just our existence and the familiarity this recipe was going to bring her and her children, and thinking of her grandmother during a really hard day. And so I think often, people go, I give to CORA because I give, I'm giving food to my community, but they're giving so much more. They're giving hope, they're giving choice, they're giving dignity, and they're giving back people some control in their lives when things, aren't going so well. And I think it's more than just the change. It's it's really making a big difference, and it doesn't take a lot to really improve someone's life, if not just their day.
Right. I think it, when I think about there's so many things that all of this impacts. It's not just the meal. It's not just the class that they can't make it to. It's that, I think, what's so powerful about it to me, I think I might be tearing up. I think what's so powerful about it to me is, and I don't know how much, I guess part of what I want this podcast to do today is for people to understand that people in their communities here locally care about the meal on the table and the person and the class and the continuing, having that hope, and that it wasn't a nameless, faceless entity that gave that money. It was somebody here in your hometown that cares that this happens and that they're trying to make that difference. And to me, that's really powerful.
It is powerful, and I also want to say that not everybody has the experiences that we have, that where we get to see, I know for me, almost on a daily basis, what collective caring can do for a community. I live it every day. And I think it's so important that we need to remember that every small little act can grow into something really big. And I just feel blessed that I get to see that every day and really have, an impact on people's lives and share that with, the community.
Yeah.
I love that term, collective caring, because that really is what Operation Roundup is. It's a collective group. It's our members all pulling together their spare change. And on average, a member, when they round their bill up, on average, it's about $6 a year. And
seems like so little, but it does so much.
But it does so much. And so just a little kind of history as to where we came from to where we are now. And I know we don't want to just throw numbers out like you were saying, but I do want to throw some numbers out because I do think they're a little important. So during the first 10 years of Operation Roundup, we were able to distribute $1 million to nonprofits and educational institutions through that spare change of our members. And to date, we're at $1.3 million. And we have this principle of concern for community here at Central Electric, and I think Operation Roundup is just, really putting concern for community into action.
Yeah. And I think there's just so much power, and there's so many stories like this. We have so many agencies that we've supported through the years, and they are highlighted on our website every quarter. The recipients are highlighted and on our socials, and so you can go and look and see, who else has received funding. And it's a very diverse group of organizations, everything from fire departments to food pantries to educational institutions and everything in between. And I think that's really exciting too, when you look at the diversity of the organizations that the trust decides to fund. But Rebecca and Kelly, I really appreciate you guys being here today and taking the time to tell some stories about what this small amount of change can do in our community. And Meg, thank you for helping me today to get this program brought in front of our audience. And to our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Operation Roundup, you can go to our website, cemcpower.com, and there's a tab under Community for Operation Roundup, and you can learn more about it and see the most recent recipients. There's actually historical data there. You can go back and see who received it for a long time. But Operation Roundup is proof that when we come together, even in little small ways, we can make a big difference and a lasting difference. So thank you for listening to Behind the Lines, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thanks.